Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Get better. Thank you. Calling this meeting to order of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. It is April 11th. I'm Kevin Kassir, the president-elect of the club, filling in for Becky today, who's out on business. We've got a full agenda today, so we're going to get right to it with Bob Vedral leading us with a moment of inspiration, five-way test and Pledge of Allegiance. So Bob.
Thank you, Kevin. The amount of information we receive in a day is incredible. On a daily basis, the average person processes an outstanding 74 gigabytes of information. To put this into perspective, that's equivalent to watching 16 full-length movies. This influx of data comes from various sources: TV, computers, cell phones, tablets, billboards, and other gadgets. Our modern digital age bombards us with an abundance of content, and our brains work tirelessly to sift through all the content. Interestingly, 500 years ago, an educated person would have consumed approximately 74 gigabytes of information over their entire lifetime, primarily through books and stories. However, today's rapid flow of data challenges our brains to adjust and process more than ever. In 1984, newspaper circulation was at 6.3 million. 2018, 28.5 million. 2022, 20.9 million. Digital media obviously has had its impact. 24-hour news is now the trend. CNN was founded on June 1st, 1980. Now there are networks that trend right, trend left, trend center. However, the need for journalism that tells the truth is critical to maintaining a foundation of democracy for our nation. I'd like to share some quotes. Some of you may remember these people, some of you won't know what I'm talking about. Walter Cronkite was once named the most trusted person in America. Also, Edward R. Murrow. Walter Cronkite said, "There is no such thing as little freedom. Either you're all free or you're not free." He also commented, the profession of journalism ought to be about telling people what they need to know, not what they want to know. Edward R. Murrow said, "We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason if we dig deep in our history, in our doctrine, and remember that we are not descended from fearful men. We proclaim ourselves, as indeed we are, the defenders of freedom wherever it continues to exist in the world, but we cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home." And he also said, "No one can terrorize a whole nation unless we are all his accomplices." Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the five-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun? Thanks, Ruth. Great job, Bob.
All right. We have one guest with us today. Call your name and ask you to stand so we can recognize you. Brian Donaghy, CEO of Broadlawn Capital Investments, a guest of the famous John Tone. So thank you. Thank you for joining us, Brian. And it's that favorite time you have for meeting. It is tumbler time. Yes, the dollar sign means that you've given, but there's always an opportunity to give more and drop it in the tumbler, and we'd be happy to move that over to our great foundation that helps us do great things. Also today, we have 2 birthdays in the club. Neither of them are here, but please reach out to them and wish them all the best. Chaz Allen and Kashan Merchant have birthdays today, so please reach out to them. Now, since I've got the podium again, I want to give you a quick update on the strategic planning work that we talked about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had our first strategic planning meeting with our strategic committee, and that is the 24-25 board of directors, committee chairs, and then we had our foundation president join in as well. It was a great discussion. We thought there was some good, lively sharing of information between us, a lot of great ideas. And now we're working on the survey from those ideas to reach out to all of you. So that is underway, and hopefully by the end of this month, you'll receive that survey. And we're trying to balance between getting all the information we want from you and having it be too long. So I'm just warning you right now, it might want to be one of your longer surveys, but if we're going to do this, I want to really get all of your views on all the key topics. So we'll try to manage it, but just giving you that heads up. And for those that didn't hear when I introduced this topic, we're going to go after this, I think a little differently, developing a 3-year plan with a partnership with the next 2 presidents, Josh and Tim, so that we have strategic initiatives that we all align to, that we work towards those, and you can't accomplish all of that in 1 year. And so that's why you need a multi-year view, a consistent approach. And I think at the end of the day, when we get all of these great minds together, get all of your input, lay out this plan that we all agree to, and then work toward it, I'm excited about a little refresh of what our club's about, what we do, how we go about doing it, how do we add value, how do we increase the value to all of you, and how do we increase the value to those that might be thinking about joining us. So it's an exciting time, and I'm excited about what we can accomplish with that multi-year view. Okay, moving on, we've got Rich, speaking of one of the people that participated, Rich Leopold, our current vice chair, and next year chair of the Community Service Committee.
I know you might be expecting another conservation joke, but it's just not in my nature. So I'm just gonna do my announcement and leave. This year, our Earth Day event is the Earth Day Trash Bash. And it's going to be, we're going to meet at 4 Mile Community Center. So it actually takes place in a few different locations, Strasser Woods and some other things. But they meet at 4 Mile Community Center. It's April 26th, which is a Saturday from 1 to 4. Great if it's just you, great if it's your family, grandkids, whatever it is, to show up for that. It's not just a trash bash too. So we always do litter pickup, and that's nice, good things to do. But we're going to be harvesting seed for wildflowers, for spring wildflowers. We're going to be completing a planting of 750 trees. Now there's a whole bunch of people, it won't be just you, but 750 trees. And then they're also doing other things to promote native plant growth, whether that be invasive species control or what have you. So you show up there at that 1 p.m. and then you can take jobs, or they'll assign jobs if you don't know what you do, and you go and have fun. It's going to be a beautiful day. I've talked with the meteorologist, we're good. So if you're interested, please, there's sign-up sheets on the table. Go ahead and sign that up, and then Kitty is working hard to facilitate getting you signed up. It's sponsored by Polk County Conservation City of Des Moines Parks and Recreation, and Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation. So we got some good backing for it. Thanks.
And now Kyle will go on to introduce our program for the day.
Thank you. Jennifer Catherine King's going to be our speaker, and I know her well enough that I get to go off script a little bit from what she provided. I'll just, when you talk to Jennifer, you'll see on her resume and background, Stanford, Nike, Men's Health and Fitness. Really very impressive, but beyond her accolades, I've got to know her personally, and I just like to provide a little bit of insight to Jennifer. Working at owning Invictus Media, she has a lot of, I'll just say, young kids out of college finding their way in life. And when they get Jennifer, they don't only get a boss, but they get a life coach. And she really creates a situation that helps them excel at Invictus. And if not Invictus, she's gone out of her way to find places for them to find purpose. And Jennifer's had some great mentors in her life, and now she is one. So I'd just like to introduce Jennifer Catherine King.
I gotta lower this because I'm way shorter than these guys. So my name is Jennifer Catherine King. You can call me Jen or JK. It's kind of been my thing for years. I'm here to talk to you guys about the power of creative storytelling, because that's one of our mission statements at Invictus. We believe in creative storytelling, passion, and collaboration. So I figure because I own a visual production company, it would probably be easier for me to show you what I do instead of talking about it, because I'm a very visual person, like most of Americans today. So Jordan, if you'll play the first video, that'd be awesome. So this was our agency reel. This is what we send to agencies across the country that we would like to work with. At the end, you saw pieces of my staff. So like Kyle says, I have 6 young adults who work for me essentially. We Makeup is a small production company here based in downtown. We're actually just on the corner of 3rd and Grand. Susan, I saw Susan's back there. Susan's our neighbor at RDG, so we're on the 3rd floor connected to their building. We have clients, I would say we probably have 40 or 50% of our clientele outside of Iowa and the other here in Iowa as well. I created Invictus in 2018 because the airport is dope to get in and out of. So let's just be honest. It takes me like 15 minutes to check all of my Pelican cases, and I'm talking about multiples. I spend more time standing around waiting for my flight than checking our gear in. So Des Moines is our home base, but we fly everywhere. Currently we have, since it's Masters Week, anybody that's an avid golfer knows what Masters is. We currently have a commercial playing during the Masters 17 times on the Golf Channel as we speak. So we have clients locally, nationally, and globally. The big thing about what we do is that people want production at a high level, and we're creating assets and turning assets over within 10 to 15 business days. So you're not waiting 6 months to get your assets, you're getting them very quickly, and we're going into revisions and getting final approval and things like that. I was kind of like trying to figure out what to say, so I was like, I'm just gonna send Kitty a couple videos to show, because again, we're a visual production agency and it's easier for me to show you so that you guys have an idea of what we do. We create anything from the small business level to the high Fortune 500 company level. So, like I said, some of our clients here are Broadlawns Medical Center, the Des Moines Airport, coincidentally, so that's always nice, right? You kind of know when not to fly out, thanks to your connection. Let's see, Community Choice Credit Union, Brown Winnick, who's in this building, and then some of our national clients are Lululemon, Nike, the Foundation of Chiropractic Progress. They're the ones that are currently the commercial that we made. And Gatorade, we've done work with them. So, and then we have 4 cinematographers, a full-time editor, a full-time photographer, and yours truly. So I oversee all of the content creation. I also do, as a small business owner, I do a lot of the business development and the nitty-gritty of the HR and payroll. So if there's a problem, you come to me, right? So that's kind of the gist of our small company. Our company is essentially growing to where we add on 1 full-time staff member a year. Kyle, I know Kyle because Kyle is my banker. This guy rolls with me every time I have a crazy idea. So I like to say he's my yes guy, but he's also my gut check guy. So Jordan, if you'll play in the next video will show you a little bit more in depth of our team.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Sure, what's the question?
So thank you for your video. I think it was exciting. My question is, what made you want to start your business?
I'll answer that as soon as that's done.
Perfect.
So Claudia asked the question before the video started, what made me want to start my own business? Truthfully, I spent 15 years working for Nike, and I probably worked 16, 18-hour days for them. And then when I went to Men's Health, I essentially did the same thing. I worked for them for four years and worked 16 to 18 hours as well. So I figured what got me here to Des Moines, I actually came away a little bit from the fitness sports world. I worked for a company called Fresh Fit Meals. My original job was to open 40 stores up and down Interstate 35. I opened 5 in 7 months and got burnt out, and again found myself working 16 to 18-hour days for somebody else. So I figured if I worked that hard for somebody else, I can work that hard for myself and build something that didn't exist, especially here in Des Moines. There are production companies, but they are essentially inside of large agencies. And some of these agencies will not have conversations with you unless you're willing to spend $100,000 or more using all of their services. To whereas Invictus, we do everything in the video or photography space. And again, we work from small to medium-sized businesses, Fortune 500 companies, whatever somebody would need. I very rarely actually say no to too many jobs, because I feel like everybody needs content creation in some physical form or manner. So I created Invictus because I pretty much got tired of working for everybody else. So why not do it for myself? And here I am 5.5 years later. So Kyle was actually the 7th bank that I went to. He actually told me no at first. So he's 6.5, I've been told no 6.5 times, I like to say. So I got Kyle to believe in me and my crazy ideas. So, and I would say that was like right at the beginning of 2021, we started working together. So Invictus, I tell people, which is no shame, we are an SBA-backed bank because that's what the SBA does. They believe in small business and they want to help make people's dreams come true. So our typical process is that we'll work with somebody, and I once had an intern ask me, what is it that you do all day? So I truthfully, as a creative director, I spend a lot of time educating clients. So they might have an idea. My job is to how to make their idea come to life and help them understand the process and everything behind it. So Kyle does not know about this video, so this is the first time he'll be seeing this, and this is probably the first time I'll be talking to him about it. One of the projects that I decided to take on, which is a huge risk because you just never know if this will come to fruition, but what you're about ready to see is a trailer called The Baby Didn't Block Her Jump Shot. This is actually our run for an Academy Award, for an Oscar in documentary. So we are physically going to make a play to win an Oscar. So my creative partners are based out of LA. This is a documentary about the women's 6-on-6 basketball. So Jordan, if you play this video.
I honest to God did not put much thought behind any of the politics of it. All I wanted to do was play.
The finals of the Iowa Girls High School Basketball Tournament. A sellout crowd of 15,000 is jamming its way into the auditorium.
Smaller rural communities closed down for everybody to go watch the girls' 6-on-6 basketball games.
You couldn't get a ticket on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday nights. Boys basketball, you could get a ticket anytime you want.
I think end of my freshman year, I was number 3 in the state. And I got pregnant after I finished sophomore year of school. And I got married in July. And Jennifer was born in December. If you're associated with motherhood, you're not going to be able to play basketball anymore. The feminists that were out, doing the marches, I didn't feel like that's what I was doing.
to see a woman coming from such a small town, like doing something like that, I feel like it's a girl boss move. Like, I love it. I literally love it. And I'm just like, yeah, that was my grandma.
Made me awful proud of her.
Honestly, I think she was one of the first feminists, you know, that I know in this state. She wasn't going to allow somebody to take away something she loved.
Thinking about, like, what would it be like now? If you
Oh.
So thank you.
Yes.
We agree with that. Troublemaker.
So, as a creative that lives in Iowa, the creative aspect of you know, the arts here in Iowa is not as important as other things here. So, as an Iowan since 2016, I feel that this is very important for us to start telling the history of Iowa and the importance of it, and for my young staff to believe into something as well. The power of media and what you can do with it is phenomenal. I once had a young photographer work for me who told me back during COVID how he spent days and hours protesting and demonstrating. And I said to him, did you have your camera with you? Did you document it? Did you do something with your skill? And he looked at me and he said, no, I didn't. And I said, that's a shame, because you could have captured those moments and you can actually use your God-given talents to help tell your story even more. So this is what essentially we do. We work with anybody, again, from the commercial space all the way to documentary. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in getting involved, let me know, because my partners and I are actually looking for executive producers. So there's my plug. So yeah, so that's essentially kind of the gist of what we do. It's very different. It's not your typical agency, if you want to call it that, because we're very specialized in what we do. I guess I don't have anything else. I don't think I'm missing anything. Usually I have my staff with me and I always say, am I missing anything? So I guess we can open it up for more questions if you like.
Where does your creative process start with your clients?
The question is, where does your creative process start with your clients? Typically, it starts off with an idea. We like to have what we call a discovery meeting, so we sit down with the client, that's with myself and my entire staff, and we start figuring out what they want us to make and how we're going to make it with them. Yesterday, for instance, we actually met with Willis Nissan because we make their commercials. So they want to make a commercial with 3 different vehicles, and so we identified the vehicles that they wanted to do, and since it's technically graduation time, the big thing, I said, what's the difference from the last commercial we made to what you want to make? And they said, we need to add people instead of just having cars. So since it's graduation time, I basically pitched, okay, let's have, like, it's a family, it's a graduation, it's a generation of Nissan drivers. So the creative process eventually starts to evolve very quickly, and then the client gets involved and we start figuring out what works and what doesn't. And then from there, the team and I, once they leave, we put together a storyboard and a shot list, and we send it off for approval. And then they usually send us back maybe a script to go with it or a voiceover so that we know what else we have to make. But it typically moves very quickly once you're committed to the project. Next question? Sir, in the...
What do you do when they all get older?
What do I do with the staff that gets older?
Yeah, you got a young staff.
I do. My youngest staff member is 19 and my oldest staff member is 27. So it's, yes. sometimes I'm not politically correct and I call them my kids because they are essentially, I'll be 46 in September, so I'm kind of like their mom in a way, and their coach, and their boss, and I also sign their paychecks. So Hunter, he's been with me since July of 2020. He's been around for almost 4 years. It's actually kind of cool to watch them get older. So it's actually cool to watch them get older and become mature adults and actually get to be a part of some of their decision making. So I got to see Hunter buy a house and buy his first car, that he was really proud of, that he actually washes 2 times a week. So it's actually cool to see that. My youngest staff member is actually married, so he would probably be the first one to actually have a kid. So it'd be cool to actually be a part of that. I get to be Aunt Jen, right? So, and then, I have another staff member who potentially is going to get married, or Hunter actually is going to get married soon. So it's actually been cool to go through the whole ring buying process with him and actually talk him out of spending $500 for a ring, right? So, and then I have another staff member who's most likely going to get engaged in the next year. So it's cool to watch them get older and be a part of their lives and get to, essentially, I get to grow old with them. In the back?
So, where does your talent come from? Are these Iowa folks or do they?
Sure. The question is, where does the talent come from? All of my staff actually is Iowa based. They grew up here in Iowa. My photographer, she applied. She was actually working for a football team called the Houston Texans, if anybody knows of them. She was their staff photographer, and she's actually from Iowa City and went to Iowa State, and then left and worked for the Chicago Blackhawks, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Houston Texans, and wanted to come home to Iowa. And we seemed to fit the best profile for what she wanted. My staff, part of their job responsibility is 25 to 30% travel, so we travel quite a bit, maybe once or twice a month, or every other month or something like that. So these kids get outside of Iowa and they get to experience culture and life outside of Iowa and things like that, and that's what McKenna, my photographer, wanted. So I also have my youngest staff member, did not go to college, but he's originally from Iowa and has a very good creative eye. So I look for people, they just coincidentally happen to be young. I look for people who have a creative eye, who's willing to let me push their buttons, truthfully. My favorite line in Mean Girls, if you've ever watched it, is when Tina Fey goes, "I'm a pusher." I can understand that, because I push these kids to think outside the creative box every day. For instance, the latest example is, yesterday when they were making the storyboard, I looked at their storyboard and they had all these wonderful cinematic shots of cars and people and things like that, but do you know what they were missing in their storyboard? Subliminal branding. So it's the branding of the Nissan logo and things like that that you have to put inside of it, because these are the commercials that are expected. And they got upset with me because I shut down their ideas. But at the same time, I had to tell them why. I have to let them walk through the door first, and then not shut the door fully on them, but have them start thinking a little bit more critically of how creative is supposed to be. So that's my primary job every day. I tell people all the time, I can't do Invictus without them. I get a lot of people who are like, "Oh my God, that's so amazing, you did a great job." And I'm like, no, my staff did a great job. My staff did the work. I just helped them walk through the doors that they needed to get there. So.
Right here in the front.
How did you come up with the name Invictus? Is there something behind that? And,
Sure.
And as you look at all of us, I think, probably have had a lot of television we've been watching, especially if they've had women's basketball at all this past month. A lot of videos have come out of that. What gets you excited, or how do you take all that extra stuff that's going on, and how do you process that and bring that into your company and flow?
Sure. So it's a two-part question. The first question is, where did I get the name Invictus? And then the second question is, how do you process all this media that's coming out in today, especially on television? Invictus, actually, when I was looking for a name, I wanted, to be fair, I didn't want to call it King Media because I kind of thought it was kind of lame to name a company after myself. And truthfully, I hope to have a legacy to where somebody, one of these young kids, truthfully, continues to push Invictus further. So Invictus in Latin means unconquerable or undefeated. So I wanted a really strong name that people can easily say and remember. So Invictus was it. The second question is, how do you process media today? But you really can't. That's the thing. Media is being processed so quickly and so fast. You pay attention to the trends. Social media, who's on social media? Most people are on social media, right? If you pay attention to social media, you can't keep up with the trends on social media. You can't keep up with the algorithms because it's just being processed too quickly and too fast, and it's always evolving and always changing. I was on a Gatorade shoot, and the agency of record was there, and they started talking about these old school Nike commercials that they saw, right? Well, I was on those old school Nike commercial campaigns, okay? And these are younger kids in their mid-20s, right? And I was like, I know exactly what those campaigns are. They got upset, and then they called my client who brought me in, and he was like, yeah, you can't say that to the agency. And I was like, okay, my bad. But, it's like, truthfully, you're seeing a lot of these campaigns or commercials from the early 2000s or 2010s. You're starting to see some of that kind of stuff. Like Gatorade is going back and they're putting their athletes in these old gyms. Well, who did that best? Nike. Nike did. So you're just seeing, a campaign creative, very rarely do you get a campaign that is something new and something different and something just really far out there. That is the unicorn. You're seeing media now today being reprocessed, but it's done better, it's done cleaner because of technology and because of all these other things like AI, right? So you're not seeing anything different than if you really think about it and you start paying attention to these older commercials and you see them today, they're just revamped versions, but with different people. That's the truth. In the back?
Yes, ma'am. Two questions. One, what was the commercial, the thing that you did that got you on the map?
Sure.
Two, what's the most meaningful one personally for you that you've done?
Oh, I get asked that question a lot. Okay, it's a two-part question. The first question is, what's the question that helped put me on the map? And then the second question is, what commercial is the most personal or meaningful to me today? The first campaign that I ever did with Nike was called Make It Count, or Make It Happen, I'm sorry. Make It Happen, it was an all-female campaign with Allison Felix, Hope Solo, Maria Sharapova, and like 3 or 4 other people. And I got a chance to work with the global brand photographer for Nike, who is actually a mentor to me. He's a GOAT, so it was really cool to be on that project, and that was 2010 when I got switched from being in team sports and I got put into brand creative for Nike. So I'm going to say that put me on the map, but it opened my eyes up to what the world of creative really was. The answer to your second question is, what's the most personable? I don't have that answer because for me, everything that we make as far as what we do for Invictus, I kind of live for the guys that work for me and how just seeing them and how they get excited for things. So, and the other aspect of it too is that we are creating so many different pieces of material every day. It's actually kind of hard. So I might have a moment for the week. So my week is the Masters commercial, because it's something that my kids can take a tremendous amount of pride in, because their commercials play nationally. a couple months ago. The Caitlin Clark commercial for Gatorade that came out, we were the production crew behind that. So when they announced Caitlin Clark as a NIL athlete for Gatorade, we helped shoot that. So so that was cool for the week. But in the world of production, it's kind of like, okay, you get your highlight now, and then you move on to the next project. So so that's kind of where I'm at for the moment. Next week, I'm doing the Women's Barbell Classic. It's a 300-person powerlifting meet for little girls to older women. You could be 8 years old to your mid-70s. It's an all-day event, and it's probably one of the most impactful events I've ever been in, because you have grown women or little girls cheering for the person that they've never met in their entire life. So, and it's a really cool environment, and I get to be a part of something like that. So that will probably be the highlight for my week, because I get to be a part of something so empowering. So, and my gang gets to capture it, and they get to see what it's like for an 8-year-old little girl to basically deadlift 55 pounds and be super freaking stoked about it. So, so yeah, so that's my highlight for now. Al?
Do you do anything in education?
As far as education, the question is, do we do anything in education? I have tried to break through into the colleges, and I tried. We recently applied to be a vendor for DMPS, Des Moines Public Schools. So, try to think. We might do something here and there. We might have done something here and there that might be a byproduct of something like that, like maybe a fundraising video or an informational video. But as far as like the schools and things like that, they have their own vendor process. So we recently tried to get inside of that. We do some headshots for a lot of teachers, and my photographer was in between two bigger jobs. So I reached out to DeMarco Lowry, who is the overall school, community school coordinator for DMPS, and offered to do senior pictures for free for for 5 people who didn't have senior pictures done. Because I like to keep my gang busy. I don't like them sitting around. So McKenna is actually shooting a person tonight from DMPS. So we do try to do some things for the schools when we can. Sir?
You mentioned that at least some of your staff have returned to Iowa, like one you mentioned in Texas, came back to Iowa, which is usually you hear about younger people being attracted to the centers of the movie industry or whatever.
Sure.
Advertising. What are the qualities that you have found that they mentioned when they decided to come back to Iowa?
Well, the question is, what qualities do I look for people who come back to Iowa? I just look for somebody that has, my first thing that I look for is the creative eye. Because the creative eye is something that you're born with. That's not something that I can teach you. So having that is a priority. The other aspect of it too is that, I try to find people who have experience, honestly, and that they want to come back to Iowa. But the problem is that Des Moines is not a Los Angeles or a Atlanta or New York City or even Chicago, because our culture and arts departments here are not very strong. So it's really difficult to find filmmakers who want to come here and be in the commercial aspect, because commercial, we're producing assets, like I said, within 10 to 15 business days. The trailer that you saw for the documentary has been 2 years in the making. So it's a very long and tedious process. And there's just not enough money to sustain the arts here in Iowa, unfortunately. So we, as me, as in Invictus, we are working with the Iowa Cultural Connection to help change that. Currently, when they make budgets, the budget for the arts and culture is 33 cents per Iowan. Okay, that's really, really low. Iowa is like 49 or maybe 50 among the states as far as the culture and arts giving, I guess if you call it. We are trying to make it to where it could be maybe $1 an Iowan, and that's a game changer. So if we can help push a little bit more of the arts, and this is again some of the reason why we want to push for an Oscar, because if we can do that here in Iowa, maybe we can start turning some people's heads and getting a little bit more traction and attention into our culture and arts department. One more question.
How did you learn the technical part of your craft, special effects and?
Sure. You're not gonna like my answer, you're probably gonna laugh. Okay, the question is, how did I learn the technical aspect of what I do? A thing called YouTube. That's part of it. And then the other aspect of it too was, when I was told that I had to help create the internal video department at Nike, I had no idea what to do with myself, right? Like, Phil Knight just walked into my office and said, you need to do it, and walked out and was like, peace out, kid, you'll figure it out, right? I found young filmmakers in Los Angeles and New York City who went to film school and brought them into the world of Nike, because I knew that very well, and they didn't, but they understood how to make cinema. So I made them Nike employees. There's a thing back in the day called Craigslist, which it still exists, right? I put out an ad looking for filmmakers, and some people blew me off, and some people actually sent me their film reels. But back then, you had to send me your reel on a flash drive. So the mail department used to just dump hordes of flash drives on my desk in envelopes, right? So I found two young people, one who was working as a barista in like some local coffee shop in LA, who went to USC Film School, and another kid who was a waiter in New York City. I'm pretty sure he worked for a Michelin star restaurant, truthfully, because it was really fancy when I went in there. And he went to NYU Film School. So I basically godfathered them, made them offers that they couldn't refuse to come work with me at Nike. And I was like, teach me everything that you know. So for six months, that's essentially what I did, was just immerse myself in the world of cinema. I actually had a homeboy that went to Berkeley in college who made the Godfather movies in sequential order. So he took all three movies and put it the way that he thought it should make sense. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, right? So I ended up calling him one day and I was like, yo, so this is what I got going on in my life. And he flew up to Portland and he's like, let's do this. So I just learned, I like to call it the George W. Bush method. I'm not a smart person. I was a C student, not even gonna lie. I barely made it through Stanford. I tell people I'm the wrong kind of Asian. I was the athletic Asian, not the smart Asian. So I lived with a ton of tutors 24/7. So, but I know that if I surround myself with smart people and they actually know what they're doing, like, let's just be honest, the kids that work for me, these guys are gangbusters. They are just light years ahead of me, but I keep up with them because they break it down for me and I'm able to understand it, and I'm able, if I have more questions, I'm able to go to YouTube because that's an even bigger, tremendous resource. I physically pay my staff to watch YouTube every week. YouTube training is a real thing. So, and sometimes I watch that and then I'll float over to SNL and watch a skit. So my brain like breaks up some things. So.
What a cool company. Yeah, that is really amazing. Now, normally I would thank you for speaking, and I'm going to, but I'm gonna do a little different here. I'm gonna thank Kyle for supporting Jen So everybody's knocked on thanks. Way to go, man. Jen, thank you very much for your really interesting presentation, but more importantly, thank you for coming to Des Moines. Thank you for creating an entity that is doing such cool things here and making Des Moines just a better and better place.
Thank you.
Yep. So, as a token of our appreciation, we're donating a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Libraries. It's gonna be routed around on our Rotary Rosie Reader van, and so we'll contribute that in your name.
Thank you.
Yep. Now, upcoming meetings, here we go. Exciting time of the year, folks. So some big meetings coming up. Probably our favorite time of the year, where we have the scholarships for the Des Moines Public School seniors and the Educator of the Year Awards, and we'll follow that up with the head basketball women's coach, Allison Pullman from Drake University. So, Brian, you'd like to come back and really learn about what the Rotary Club of Des Moines is all about? These next couple meetings will move you. Jen, we'd love to have you come back and listen in and see more about, from the other side, about what we're about. Just some very incredible programs coming up on our calendar. So, as a reminder, if you want to bring guests, Kitty needs it by 9 a.m. on Wednesday. Some way, somehow, the guests have to be registered with her by Wednesday at 9 a.m. And even more important, coming up, because as you know, these meetings are full with all of the guests of the students and of the teachers. So you heard from Rich earlier about the Earth Day trash bash opportunity. You got that up there? Yep. Also, another opportunity to donate your time on April 27th through, in support of Des Moines Public Libraries, Dia del Nino celebration at Union Park. Sign up is at the badge boxes outside, right, Kitty? So we would really appreciate you signing up for those events that we are supporting in the community. And I guess that is it today.